Hey guys, my name is Lauren, so I'm just going to do a quick Sky Island 50K recap. My A race is the Brazos Spin 100 on December 7th. I was really going into Sky Island to do more of an aided long run type effort and really learn or dial in a lot more my hydration strategies, my nutrition strategies, and really work on my mental resilience. That was the goal going into Sky Island, and to have a really good time. So I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about how I felt during the race from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint, and kind of some of the key things that I learned during my experience. I'm hoping that you can use it during your own trail running experience or road running experience. So I guess before the race, so the day before, I had to work. So I worked, and then the drive was about 7 hours. So when you're traveling like that the day before the race, a few things can get out of routine. And so that's going to be like your hydration levels, your mobility, and your diet the day before. So I was really keen and aware on making sure those things were about as similar as possible to what I usually do. So I was making sure I stopped and stretched out my hips and moved around, did some squats and lunges to stay mobile, made sure I had electrolytes, and then made sure I packed a dinner of salmon and rice the day before. And then going into the race morning, just making sure I have everything dialed in terms of salt pills and CBD and just nutrition in general. So I personally used Martin during the race, so Martin 320, and then I had 4 Goos. That was what I carried with me, and I had 2 handhelds, so I didn't run with a backpack or anything like that. So waking up, going into race morning, woke up at about 4 a.m. After about 6 hours of sleep. I had coffee that I bought the day before at Whole Foods, so again, going back into routines, had MCT oil, and then I had my supplement lineup like I do every single day. And then, so that's kind of the pre-race going into it. And I guess my mental standpoint, I just wanted to learn as much as possible. And from a time standpoint, I thought that I could run 4 hours and 20 minutes just based off of the conversations I had with people who had run it before, looking at past results and what those people have run on and off the roads. I just really thought that was a realistic goal. And it had nothing to do with the course record being 4 hours and 50 minutes. I didn't really care about what everyone else had run or what everyone else was trying to run. I don't run for those reasons. I run to push myself more than anything, physically and mentally. So that was my goal from a time perspective, but it was more so just to learn more than anything. So anyways, race day morning, gun went off, and from the gun, I was by myself, competitive-wise, and a pacer was with me to make sure we got to the trail because the first mile was on the road. And then we went through the mile in about 7:05, which was whatever to me. And the pacer at that time no longer was running with me. So by that point, I was by myself for the rest of this 31-mile race. Shortly after that, my headlamp, I thought that I had charged it or I thought that I had good batteries, but it died literally right then as soon as the pacer left. So I pulled out my phone, and then I ran with my phone as my light for the first hour and a half of the race because the race started at 6 a.m., so it was dark until about 7:30 in the morning. So just make sure you are smarter than that and you have some new batteries. After that, again, just kind of cruising. I knew for the course you had to do the Skyline Ridge loop twice, which was the most technical portion of the course. And then I knew you went off the Skyline Ridge and went to the Primitive Loop, which was a lot more runnable, which was about 8 miles of just single track runnable trail. And then you came back down the Primitive Loop and went up the final technical hill, Indian Lodge, to the finish. So I knew that was the course in my head, but I didn't know really like turn by turn what was going on. So when I got off the Skyline Ridge for the first time, it was still dark, and I got to this road and I saw a blue arrow pointing to the right, so I followed that arrow. And unfortunately, it wasn't the right way to go. I didn't really know that though until I had gotten to the top of the primitive loop, and I saw Trey, who also works here at Run Lab with me. He was saying, "Hey, dude, you're not supposed to be here yet." At that moment, I just kind of said, like, "Where am I supposed to be?" And he's like, "Oh, you're supposed to be like back down there, 3 miles back the other way, or 2 miles back the other way, back on the Skyline Ridge." So in that moment, I wasn't really frustrated with anybody in general. I was more frustrated with myself, to be honest, because I just got lost, and I knew that this would become a controversial point. I wasn't really there for that. It was really just there to have a good time, and I didn't want anyone to. The race directors put a lot into it. I didn't want anyone to get backlash on them, to be honest with you. So at that moment, I said, well, I'm just going to run this primitive loop, and then I'll go back and run the Skyline Ridge loop, and I'll run the whole course just out of order. And I didn't know that you would get DQ to that. That wasn't in my conscious mind at that point. So anyways, I started continuing to run the primitive loop, starting to drop back my pace down to like low 7s and everything. And then just a learning perspective at mile about 15 and a half. So again, I've done technical trails, then I went up this hill, and now for the first time I'm actually able to run at a decent pace. My left adductor, which I never have problems with, I sometimes have problems with my right adductor when cycling. Left adductor started cramping really badly. 15 and a half miles in, I just took 2 salt pills and a CBD gummy, so 25 milligrams, and literally less than a minute later it was fine. Then I started running on the trail with Taylor Swift, so I just listened to the same 3 songs over and over and over again. I listened to Lover, and then I listened to Paper Rings, and then I listened to Miss Americana. So I just listened to that for about 4 miles during this section of the course. Once I got back to that aid station where Trey was at, I turned off my headphones, or I thought I did, and I started going back down the primitive loop, back down towards Skyline. They had radioed in the race directors who were going to meet me and get me back to the Skyline Ridge, get back down to the road, talk to the race directors a little bit about what happened. They get me back over to Skyline. I go up and down the technical parts, and again, at this point, I'm not upset or anything. It's just, I'm like, okay, I can still win, and I can still run a faster time. I'll know what my 31-mile split is because I have my Garmin, and it's all good. Just keep pushing through this and keep going. So I've already run over 20 miles, and I'm starting to go through the most technical hilly part, and I can just start to feel it in my legs more than anything. And so I'm just trying to work different muscles by power hiking and just engaging different muscles like my hip flexors and my quads, trying to shut off my calves and my ankles as much as I could going up these hills. And then I'm fine through everything. The volunteers are really good. Just trying to maintain a positive attitude, just joking around with the volunteers. So that's a big thing in these races is you start to think of negative things, but if you can just focus on gratitude, that will really help you just keep moving forward. And then everything was smooth. I got through that section, I guess probably a mile 28-ish or so. Both of my hamstrings really started to cramp up when I got onto a runnable part. So I came down this really rocky technical descent, and then I got onto this flat where you could start running faster again. So I started running close to 7-minute pace again, about 28 miles into the race, and both my hamstrings like really cramped up. I tried the same thing of taking a salt pill and some CBD, but didn't really work this time. So I was just running through these excruciating hamstring pain until the course itself started going back up. And once it started going back uphill on the technical part again, the hamstring pain kind of went away for the rest of the time. Going in, so then I finish that loop, I get back on the road and I'm running, and then my watch splits 31 miles at 4 hours and 26 minutes. And that was probably the lowest point of the race, to be honest, more than anything, because I just thought, well, I'm supposed to be done right now. And I would have broke the course record. I would have ran close to my goal, even though I had all these stops and I didn't really know where I was going. And so that was definitely a low point. And I started cussing a lot, which sucks because there was a little kid like right next to me when I started cursing. but it happens, and I kind of just calmed down, and I came up with a new goal in my head. I was like, okay, like, you should be done, but you can still break 4 hours and 50 minutes, which is cool. I don't know how much further you have to run right now. I don't know what's going on, but just keep trying to move forward, keep trying to stay positive. So I'm on the road, and I turn